What is up, guys? Chris here, Bear Market Mining. Thanks again for stopping by. So today we're diving into one of the biggest questions for at-home miners in 2025. What is the best type of mining hardware for you and your situation? Should you go with GPUs, CPUs, or ASICs for the best return on investment? The crypto market and profitability is constantly changing, and choosing the right type of hardware could be the difference between making a passive income or wasting your time and money. So today I'm going to break down the pros and cons of all three to help you decide what is the best fit for you. Let's get into it. GPUs have historically been the go-to choice for home miners because of their flexibility, but how do they stack up now? Let's start with a few of the pros of GPU mining. All right, first up, let's talk about diversity. So one of the main reasons GPU mining is so attractive for so many people is the number of different proof of work coins you can mine. So we've got ourselves over here on hashrate.no, and you can see an absolute myriad of different available coins you can mine. We could keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Now, the profits aren't huge at the moment. The markets are down, but the beauty of diversity with GPU mining, if one coin goes down, another one is always there to take its place. So there's generally something you can mine that's profitable at any given time. You see here, we're just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Even if we speed this up, it just doesn't stop. And at a pretty good electrical rate, there's still cents on the dollar to be made. Not much for now, but with this bull run impending, expect these numbers to get a lot better. Next up, let's talk about the resale value you've got with GPUs. So unlike ASICs, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, that often become outdated when newer models come in, we're looking here on eBay at the 3070, which we'll use for a bit of a comparison throughout this video. So we're looking at just the recently solds on the 3rd of February, which is when I'm recording this. And as you can see, we scroll down, they're just being sold constantly. So if you were to get into GPU mining and you were thinking about, okay, how could I de-risk and get out if I wanted to, you'd have no issues selling your hardware again. As you can see, people are constantly snapping them up. Gamers, people using them for rendering, desktop PCs, all that sort of stuff. So they have a really great de-risking element to them, GPUs. Unsimilar to some of the other things we'll talk about later, like the ASICs, GPUs, you're always going to be able to sell them, especially the 3000 series, the 3070s in particular. Not only are they great for crypto mining, they're also really solid gaming graphics cards, for your moderate sort of gamers. Now, you're not going to be doing any 4K stuff with the 3070, but look at them right here. They're selling like hotcakes, and for a decent price as well, $270. So pretty cheap, 325, 250. If you're looking around, you'll be able to score these all day long at sort of 250 to $300, and they're not hard to find. So eBay is going to be your best friend when you're looking at reselling, if you wanted to resell them. But I think it's always good to have a sort of de-risking strategy if you're thinking about getting into crypto mining in 2025, and GPUs definitely offer that. I've bought many, over 100 graphics cards for GPU mining over the years, and I've sold a bunch of them recently for exactly what I paid for them years and years ago after they'd already paid themselves off. So for that regard, a really good pro to GPU mining. So GPUs, in my opinion, are a great entry point when it comes to crypto mining, but they do offer some challenges. So let's talk about a few of those now. So probably the biggest issue with GPU mining right now is gotta be profitability. So as we can see here back on hashrate.no, yes, we have a ton of different coins to mine, but the profitability is slim to none. So we've entered in a $250 GPU. One GPU, you're going to be making 12 cents profit right now. Retrospectively, that might be a higher number, but in the art of de-risking, that's always something to consider. I mean, look, there are always going to be coins that are going to pump, but how do you know you're mining the right one? So profitability, is a big issue right now. let's say you wanted to build yourself an 8-card rig like many of us over the years at $250 a GPU, not including the mining motherboard, fans, frames, things like that. You'd be looking at about $1,800 US to make $1 a day right now. So that's a pretty long payback period, 1,800 days. So if you're willing to wait that long, GPU mining could work for you, but let's not kid ourselves here. You're not making a ton of money right now GPU mining. So profitability, probably one of, if not the biggest factors when talking about cons with GPU mining. One of the next biggest challenges when it comes to GPU mining has got to be overclock. So we're over here in Hive OS. We're looking at what we call a flight sheet. So when you're crypto mining, you're going to want to reduce your power. So this means locking your core clock, setting memory clocks, all that sort of stuff, and knowing how to configure flight sheets. So some miners will be simpler than others, but this coin, Cubic, for example, has an external URL, which you'd have to find off GitHub. It's got a random pool address. It's got access tokens, all sorts of stuff. It's got all these things down here, which even I, to some extent, don't fully understand. So overclocking is going to be a big barrier for beginners. So that's what I think may turn some people off with GPU mining. And last but not least, when it comes to GPU mining, another con I would say for setting them up is got to be cooling. So cards, depending on what algorithms you're mining, are going to want to run hot. This means having knowledge of intakes, exhausts, cooling fans, setting your own fan speeds on your GPUs, heat management, all that sort of stuff. And also noise. When you're running a lot of fans, things are gonna get noisy. Let's say you want to build an 8-card GPU rig. Say every card has got 2 fans on it. You're at 16 fans spinning there already. If you've got a rig with another 6 fans on it, that's 22 fans spinning. Then you add exhaust fans, you get the drift. So noise and heat are going to be other issues for beginners, as long as overclocking and of course the current profitability. Next up, let's talk about CPU mining. Now, CPU mining is almost seen as the little brother of GPU mining, especially in 2025, although it is getting a lot more notoriety over the last few years. So let's start and look at a few of the really good reasons why CPU mining may be a good option for you. First up, let's talk about initial setup costs. So once again, over here on eBay, we're looking at a Ryzen 3900X. Now this is a very common budget but profitable CPU that many miners have been using for a number of years now. So at about 135 bucks, you know, 140 bucks, 120 bucks, you're going to be getting yourself into CPU mining very, very cheaply. Now, of course, you will need to add a motherboard and a fan to that. Estimate another $100. You're at about the same price for one 3070. And now let's look how that cost per dollar compares. So for $250 US on a 3070, we were making about 12 cents. Over here on hashrate.no, we can see we're making 3 times the price. So very, very cheap, very easy to set up, which we'll talk about in a minute, and 3 times the profit currently. So CPU mining is a really, really good option as far as entry point, current profitability, if you're looking to start crypto mining in 2025. CPU mining rigs are also simpler to build for the most part. They require less components. The cooler is attached to the motherboard itself. That can be set up in the BIOS, which is very, very easy to do as well. I'll actually leave a link above for a card on how to overclock CPU mining rigs if that's something you're interested in, but very, very simple to set up, low maintenance, a lot less to consider. Also, looking at the flight sheets for CPU mining rigs, as you can see, a lot less going on. So here we have a very standard hash algorithm. There's no real overclocks you need to do in Hive OS except for setting threads, but that doesn't need to be done necessarily either. All of the miners will set their own thread counts manually for you to keep your CPU safe. As I said, it may just be a few BIOS settings that need to be tweaked, which is much, much easier and much more consistent than overclocking GPU mining rigs. So while CPU mining seems great on paper, low entry point, less overclocks, there are a few other issues, some cons to contend with. So let's talk about that now. Probably the biggest con when it comes to CPU mining has got to be diversity. So on the left here, we've got that 3070 we looked before. And as you can see, we can scroll to the end of days to find coins that are profitable. It just keeps on going. There's hundreds here and probably even more if you were to look elsewhere. Conversely, on our right, our 3900X, our CPU mining rig, as you can see over here on hashrate.no, there are only about 10 or 15 different coins to mine, meaning that if profitability goes down on one, you have far fewer options to consider when it comes to mining something else. Now, of course, there are some coins that we like to spec mine is the term, which basically means mining a coin early that really has, no future outlook or potential, or it could 100x. So that's a risky play. But as far as diversity, not a ton happening with CPU mining when comparing it to GPU mining. Last but certainly not least, let's talk about the mini ASIC or home ASIC miner. First up, let's talk about one of, if not the biggest pro when it comes to ASIC mining is efficiency. So we're using right here the iPolo V2X. It's an ETH hash miner. We're using this for an example. I'm going to compare it to our 3070. So let's remember these numbers. So if we look right here, we can see one, it's profitable. It's making $1.34 a day, which is reasonable. But more importantly, it's creating 1200 mega hash at 165 watts. Now, let's compare that to GPU mining on the same sort of scale. Over here, we've got 20 3070s, which would be around $4,500 or so, creating the same amount of hash rate using 20 times the power and losing money. So efficiency is really what has set these ASICs apart and has started moving the crypto mining world in that general direction. I could show you a number of different examples of this across all different algorithms where ASICs have come online and instantly booted GPUs off because they can't compete with the efficiency. So efficiency is always going to be number one when it comes to crypto mining, and that is why I think ASICs have the biggest pro of all to start. Another crucial factor and a really big pro for ASIC mining is the scalability and the output. So this is one of the big boy ETH hash miners, the Jasminer X44P. Is putting out 23,400 mega hash, which is equivalent to 365 3070s. So if we were to talk about density, it's not even comparable, right? To fit 365 3070s at your house is going to be almost impossible. You'd need them all in server cases. You need a dedicated shed outside. It's just not feasible. And let's talk about the profit as well. $27.91. It's using 2,550 watts. Let's compare that to 365 3070s, and I think you know how this is going to go. 41,000 watts. So the efficiency obviously way better and losing $30. So scalability, efficiency, and of course, coming up next, the ease of use is what's going to make the ASIC a much better option in a lot of cases than GPU and CPU mining. The setup for ASIC miners is also so much more simpler. These general box miners often, in most cases, come with power supplies installed. They've simply got a power outlet. Most are compatible for 120 or 240 volts. They've got their own overclocks already set, so you don't need to mess around with them. They've got their own mining software set, so a really easy set and forget option when compared to GPUs and even CPUs. First up, let's talk about the price. Now, while much more profitable than GPU and CPU mining, a lot of this stuff comes with a pretty hefty price. So over here on cryptominerbros.com, and you can see some of these units are going to run you an absolute Mozza. Now, still probably better bang for buck when compared to GPU mining and CPU mining for profitability, ROI, and all those sorts of things, but you really have to have a high risk appetite to get into some of these. You know, we can see the S21 XP Plus at 13,000 US dollars. The Volk miner D1, that's a Dogecoin miner or a script miner, 7,000 US dollars. So definitely a lot of risk when considering buying some of these more expensive miners. You can of course buy your more moderate sort of miners, your cheaper ones, but the rewards will be reflected. You've got to sort of be in it to win it with ASIC mining. You've got to spend big to make big in most cases. The second issue with ASIC mining is while they're easier to set up, troubleshooting can often be non-existent. You may have something like a hash board that just dies, and there's often no options to fix this at home, meaning you've got to send it away for repair, which can be expensive and can take you offline for months. The last and probably most crucial con to remember when thinking about purchasing an ASIC miner are the diminishing returns. So because these have such a high hash rate and output, when a lot of them get bought, a lot of hash rate comes online, the profitability can drop pretty rapidly. So I'll use myself and as an example, I've got a few of these KS5Ms. Now I bought them here back in June, about the start of June or so. They're making $61. You know, 7 months later, they're barely breaking even. Now, of course, that has a lot to do with the market manipulation, the current price, but this has been seen on pretty much every ASIC that has been released since about mid-2024. The diminishing returns are something to consider. The days of being the first to buy the miner guarantees your ROI it's gone. Those days are no longer, so definitely something to remember when considering buying an ASIC miner. So what is the winner? GPU mining offers great diversity, but the profits aren't really there at the moment. CPU mining is a lower entry point and has slightly better current profitability, but less diversity than GPU mining. And ASIC mining, while it has a much higher efficiency and hash rate, going to yield you more coins along with the profitability, there is the risk of diminishing returns and also the risk of, you know, never ROIing, which is the case for all three. So this isn't just ASIC specific. Me personally, my plan for 2025, I've already got a ton of GPUs and CPUs, and I'm slowly growing my ASIC portfolio. So for me personally, the winner would have to be ASIC mining. I think that's the way the market is trending. Everyone's getting into it. It's set and forget. It's better profitability, but you have to have much more of a risk appetite. So for me, ASIC mining. Let me know, guys, what are you going with? What's your go-to option for crypto mining in 2025? Let me know down in the comments. Let's figure out what the best option is for everyone. That is going to wrap up the video, guys. Hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.